All right, we're going to give her another in progress video here. As you can see, I have the axle in place. I've got the U-bolts in place on both sides, and they have these pretty thick washers that go on the bottom, of course, with the nuts. And so what we're going to do is we've got to draw the front up first and pull that axle up in place with that spring. And then on the back side we have one of these gizmos here that is for your shock. And they kind of mount down underneath here, and we'll get to those as we get the back or the front up, and we'll get that spring in place and get it situated so that it's straight. And that's the key, is getting that straight. And what helps get it straight is there is a hole down in the middle of this axle, and that lines up with the head of this bolt for the springs. And that's what gets your axle in place so that it's not one side off or the other. And of course, on this axle there are witness marks, or the old where this spring used to sit. There, you know, it's from the years, it's got like a little groove bore in it. So what I'm going to try to do is match those witness marks to the spring, and as well as get that in the proper place, and we'll draw that up into position. So let me do that and I'll bring you back. Well, we had to make a few changes. This is the bolt that I had initially put in there, and you can see where the threads were at. I in the past had purchased 2 sets of U-bolts. This is what happens when you, through the years, buy parts. You forget that you've bought replacement parts, and so a few years later you see a good deal, so you buy the exact same thing, which in this case was probably okay. I purchased these, I don't know, probably off of eBay. They will work, but when you pull it all the way through your axle, you have a bit of this exposed. In other words, the nut, if you didn't have a washer on there, that nut would come all the way and it would not get tight. The threads are not long enough. So recently I bought a complete kit, the front and back U-bolts, and these are the difference. Now they're a little bit longer, as you can see. Not bad, maybe they're about the same length, but notice the thread difference. And so we are going to go with the unpainted ones because I have a whole lot more thread to work with. So these are all painted, but these are not. But yeah, we'll paint them up afterwards. Well, I took you off the stand here. We'll show you what I've done. I've got these 2 U-bolts in, and you can see this bracket right here that it mounts up underneath this axle plate, and what they give you is a couple of flat washers. They're about 1/8 inch thick. Anyway, in order to mount that plate, there's a ridge here in the middle, and I had to take a lock washer and a flat washer, 1/2 inch, and put up in there to space those down, because I do not have enough of the flat washers. And you can see then underneath the flat washers that I used to put into place. I thought it would be much better to put those because they're a one-piece washer, and these are going to take a lot of torque. And so by putting the lock washer and the flat washer up in there, it spaced it out enough that that bracket is not hitting that ridge. And I'll show you here. Maybe this is, you still can't see it because I'm shooting into the light. But anyway, yeah, you'll just have to believe me. There's a ridge right up in here. And it's just silly. And because these brackets, I'll show you what they're there for. I mounted the front shock. This has not been gone through, painted, anything obviously. But you can see there is a stud that sticks up here with a round hole in it and a bushing, and then there's an arm that goes from that bushing up to this arm with a bushing in it, and that is your front shock absorber right there. So you got to have that plate there for your shock absorber. I can't remember. It's been too long ago to remember what I pulled out from underneath here. And the pictures that I took were so, the pictures are good, but there was so much crud built up around this that you couldn't really see if there was a spacer. There had to be a spacer in there on both sides in order to get that. There's a stiffening ridge, like I mentioned, right in the middle here. And it hangs down. And so this plate can't go up, you know, because those two areas are recessed up in further. So, but anyway, that's what I did. And that should work. But I'm sure glad that I had purchased these bolts with the longer threads. You can see I've got a lot of thread to spare there. The other ones, I don't think they would have worked unless I would have put a lot of washers underneath it to, you know, so that your nut wouldn't have to be bothered with anything. I mean, on the front I could have got away with it easily because of the space here, but on the back there's nothing but that washer. I'll show you the thickness of these washers here. These are the washers that come with the U-bolts. As I mentioned, they're probably 1/8 inch, I would guess, thick. So what I did is I just took a flat washer and a lock washer and put those together, and those two together maybe are a little bit thicker than this, but I don't have enough of these. In the kit they only give you enough to do the U-bolts and not enough for that bracket. I don't know in the back if I'm going to have to deal with that or not, but we'll wait until we get to that point. So anyway, just a little tidbit there.